I don't think that there would be any possibility to stop people and goods to travel throughout the world. But there are a lot of forces right now making sure that that will be sustainable moving forward.
Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRY. AFRY is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. So I have the pleasure to welcome Kajsa Rosén to Urbanistica podcast. Hey, and welcome, Kajsa.
Hey, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here and giving your valuable time to record this episode. How are you doing?
Oh, very well, I must say. It's a special time right now, of course, working a lot from home, and I'm really missing to see my colleagues live. So it's good to be here and see you, even though we have a long distance between us.
Yeah. I'm also so happy because finally I'm recording on some like real person URL.
Yeah.
Because recently I was doing it like more via like online, digitally. And it's a kind of boring, but anyway, this is the situation and let's go for it. But I'm happy that you're here. So, Kajsa, you are our storyteller for this episode. How would you like to introduce yourself and please tell us about your passion?
I'm a 47-year-old woman living up in the middle of Sweden in a town called Leksand. I have worked with infrastructure for 17 years now. And to me, it was not something that I dreamt about when I was young. I actually have my degree within media and communications, and I started off working in the IT business. And then I wouldn't say a mistake, but merely by accident, I ended up in a position at the Transport Administration in Sweden. And since I really like people, I like issues that has to do with the development of the society, but I couldn't see myself working for a national agency. But I started there, and then I merely fell in love with the first trains, and then maybe also some other part of the infrastructure development. And I love working in a business where you are in some part you are delivering also opportunities to people and businesses. So right now I can't see myself being anywhere else, actually.
Well, this is a really big and diverse journey of different stops. But when did it start that your passion to people and you'd be like, okay, I will work for people?
I think that has actually been something that I was born with. I've always liked to be around people and being part of a group and so on. And I have utilized that in different ways during my childhood and growing up. I've had the opportunity to move quite a bit to different places. And then, I mean, it is a really good gift to have that you like people, because then it's much easier to enter into a new society. So it has always been there. So I guess I was merely born with it.
That's really awesome. So it's like a gift and you maintain this magic and gift.
I have never looked upon it like that, but it's just natural for me, and talking to you about it now, yeah, I guess so.
That's awesome. So where are you working now, Kajsa?
Well, today I work at AFRY, which is a technical consultancy company with 17,000 employees throughout the world, and I've been here now for 6 years, and I'm heading the business area transportation. So that's what I do right now.
How do your days look like? What do you do?
Well, I would say that my biggest tool today, now when we are in the middle of the pandemic as well, is my computer. And I am in a lot of meetings, both internal meetings with my employees, but also in external meetings with clients and so on. So I would say that my biggest tool in my work is my computer and my voice. Yeah.
I can also see that you have a really, really great voice. So it's really deep. So maybe we should record more episodes.
I'm happy to do that.
So now you're how to say, you're a good friend with your laptop. And how does it feel? Because you're passionate about meeting people. How does it work now?
Well, I think it has been very important for me. First of all, I must say I have started to utilize my computer in different ways. Before, when I could meet people in real life as well, I mean, you could merely make a phone call or an email or so on. But today, I'm really passionate about sort of having meetings, and I always ask the person at the other end to turn on their camera, because I find it very hard to speak just to a blank screen.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one of the interactions you have. Another finding that I have is that it has become very important for me to have routines during the day to sort of keep up the energy level. So I have this routine with my husband and a couple of his friends that every morning during the weekdays we meet up at 5:30, the ones of us who can, and we go for a run and try to talk a bit.
That's awesome.
Yes. And try to have lunch with someone if I can.
Yeah.
But routines has become more important to me now than it was before.
Yeah, I totally agree with you about the part with all the parts, but specifically with the one with the camera, because I don't like to talk, usually it's like 2 letters of the person, like let's say MS Mustafa Sharif. I'm like, please, can we make it more social a bit? Yes.
And you like to see the reaction of the person that you're talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Kajsa, so how do you define transportation?
Well, transportation for me is how you get from one point to another one, of course. And the means of transportation can be different. And I'm thinking that how you transport yourself or goods from one point to another is also driven from that person or from that company. And then over time it develops, right?
So do you also believe that it's not only about A to B, it's about the journey?
Yes. And one personal example is that, well, I told you I fell in love with trains 17 years ago. And right now I can't even imagine myself going from where I live in Leksand to Stockholm by car, because that time to me is dead. When I'm on the train, it's all about the journey and what I can do during that journey. And I like to be able to do all the things I can do on the train ride. And I am not really in love with the things I can do driving a car. So
yeah, you have more other activities to do when you're in the train. Tell me, can transportation really be sustainable?
I really believe so. And I think we will need transportation. And I think that a lot of us right now are really working to make sure that the means for transportation will be sustainable. I don't think that there would be any possibility to stop people and goods to travel throughout the world. But there are a lot of forces right now making sure that will be sustainable moving forward. And I can also see that a lot of important stakeholders are setting very high targets now on sustainable transportation, which will also drive the development in that direction. And that makes me very happy, because I couldn't really see those targets a couple of years ago. But they are there now. And we also have the knowledge, I believe, to develop transportation to become sustainable. But the targets are important.
Yeah. Are we talking about social, ecological, economical? Because sometimes the focus only on like the
CO2.
What do you think? Or how is it now?
No, I would think that we are talking about the whole spectra. That is my deepest belief. Although you can see that the drivers in the beginning of this movement might be the CO2 targets. But we will see the whole spectra, and we can also see target setting in parts of the whole spectra, I would say. And also I have a great belief like in the young people. They will not target only CO2. Never. And I mean, they are the ones that will continue to build this system for us. Exactly.
And are we starting to talk about climate smart transportation, or we are not there yet? Or maybe you can explain to the listeners what is climate smart.
I truly believe that we are talking about the climate smart transportation solutions, and that is what we will see, I think, coming up. And we are also seeing models being introduced to how we plan the transport system today that will develop climate smart systems. I hope that we in all our client projects soon will actually be able to deliver to the clients suggestions on how they can make their transport system climate positive, not only climate neutral, climate positive. And then it's up to the client really to, from our advice, also make those decisions. And I think that we have more and more clients that want to be there.
That's great to hear, because you mentioned in the beginning that many of stakeholders start to put targets. And now I hear from you that many of the clients also want to be part of this journey. Yeah. So what if I'm just a small client? Can I do this as well?
Definitely. I mean, you can take the whole spectra. You can look at the political target setting, of course. You can look at the transport administration and what they are driving. But you can also look at a very small client, like a company that would like to deliver their goods in some way. They can also do that in a climate-friendly way.
Yeah, because my question here is, big companies have the resources, the time, the money to give sustainability people. Okay, give us a plan. But how about the small company? How do we do that if I am a small company?
Definitely. I think that it is also from a small company point of view, it's also a way to stay relevant to your customers, right? I mean, in the end, it's customer driven. The customers, they want to buy things that will not in a bad way contribute to the climate, right? So if you have that as an advantage, that is also really good for your company. So I can see a lot of questions also coming from smaller companies.
I imagine, especially in sustainability journey, everybody should be part of this journey.
Yeah, you will stick out if you're not, I'd say.
Yeah. So what are the challenges that we are facing now in Sweden from the transportation point of view?
Well, I think what we will see now is that we will see a lot of less investments in new infrastructure. We will rather see larger investments in the existing infrastructure. And I see a great potential there, because I know that we are not utilizing the system in the most efficient way today. So I am really looking forward to that. I also think that we will see a change when it comes to patterns about how we will transport ourselves, where I think we will see a tendency of us as humans moving maybe from driving our cars by ourselves, using more of a collective transport solutions, trains, trams, buses, and so on. I also hope that there will be no cars in our cities moving along. The city should really belong to the people that are living there and not to the cars.
Yeah.
And then I'm very eager to see how the airplane traffic will develop. And that, I think, is that's a harder issue to predict. Will we have national flights or not?
Well, next week I will have the CEO of Arlanda City Airport here. Good questions.
How interesting.
Yes.
When is the electrical plane here? And how will it develop our means of transportation?
Yeah, very interesting question. So back to where you started with, that the investment is more like on existing project. Why not on new? Are we afraid of, or what? Why? What is the reason?
I would say that the money makes more, the investments makes more sense there. You get more transportation out of spending the money in the existing system and making that more efficient rather than building new ones. So that's basically what I see.
I think it makes more sense that developing the existing rather than investing in a new one, and maybe both of them not really working.
Exactly. That's also a really good point.
And we have so many international listeners. Now we are talking about the Swedish situation. How is it in the other countries? Let's talk about Europe maybe, because AFRY is in Europe as well. And
yeah. Today we are developing the transport system from AFRY point of view in 8 European countries, and we can see the same trends in all of the countries, moving towards more sustainable solutions, putting more emphasis on making the transport solutions climate friendly. We can see the same trends of moving towards creating opportunities for cycling and pedestrians, and really contributing to the health of the people living in the country also. So same trends, I must say, but then there are on different levels, of course, between the countries. Also, as previous mentioned, putting more money and investments into existing transport infrastructure is also a very apparent trend. More money towards railway and trams rather than roads. I'm even starting to think, have we actually been part of, at least in the northern part of Europe, designing the last motorway? Could it be so?
Oh, that's, I think for some sounds very scary. The last motor road.
Yeah. But I mean, you could continue utilizing the existing system, of course.
Yeah. And I'm so happy to hear from you that many cities are going towards more sustainable mobility or transportation, and also especially with the biking. That's really great to hear. And what do you see? Because we know that Copenhagen or in Netherlands, they're leading. Do you see more other cities are coming on this level of?
Yeah, definitely. I lived in the Netherlands for 1 year. Was it 25 years ago? And it was so interesting because I live in The Hague, and everyone was biking. It was so new to me. You can see judges in their wigs biking to work, to the international court. And I see that also now a lot in Sweden, of course, but it is harder to have to sort of construct a city into a bike city when it has been developed for cars in the beginning. So that is, I think, a challenge, but I see a lot of cities taking that challenge on right now. And you can see it here in Stockholm where we are today. I mean, there are so many bikes everywhere, not safe in all times, but it's getting safer. But you need to start planning and putting the bicycle paths at the top of the hierarchy and not at the bottom. Then you develop.
Yeah, and I would love to ask you more about this. We will come later. That what do you prioritize when you advise the cities. And I know that you're also part of Gröna Städer, the Green City Association.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is it about? What is the aim?
Okay, what we want to do there is really to put the emphasis on how we, in a holistic way, can create green cities. So we are a different group of companies and people trying to really advocate how do you develop a green city, and how do you take on the challenge of having an existing city and developing that into something that is green. Because, I mean, to be honest, it's quite easy to start from the sketchbook and create a green city. But the real challenge is to develop an existing city into something that is green. And that is what we are trying to take on here and challenge ourselves to set that issue on the political agenda, bringing all the competence that we have in the group to the table and say we can be part of solving this to someone.
Is there a big willing from the political side?
I think so. There are a lot of questions concerning this, and I think you have to address every question as an opportunity of bringing change to someone. So the question might be in the beginning a bit limited, but I mean, your answer could be more developed than the question was from the beginning as well.
So you're active in so different fields or arenas like AFRY, Green Cities, and also on your personal life. So what did you learn from the pandemic? Like, what is the new normal? This is the 1 million question, you know.
Wow. I think, to be honest, personally, there is really two sides of it. One side is that you do get more time at home. You do get more time to socialize with your close ones, and you really have to take that on and develop those relationships. The other one is that you have to, I find it hard to not get as much input as you do when you are traveling and moving around. So you have to really look for the opportunities to get new input, to force yourself, you know, to a digital arena, try to learn something new that would come more natural before the pandemic, because then you were moving around in a different way. So it takes, I think, to take on the challenge and not see this time as something that is in between the life before and the life after. Okay,
so basically we are already on the new normal somehow.
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't see myself traveling as much as I did before the pandemic.
And how is it transportation-wise? We saw a lot of studies on how people change their behaviors and so on. So how is this going to affect the transportation and the investment? What do you see, the new patterns?
That's a very interesting question. And I think really just a month ago or 2 months ago, maybe we sort of entered into a new phase. Because before that, I could see a lot of people saying, well, it will blow over until the end of the year, and then we will all go back to what was before. But now it's very apparent to us that it will go on for a longer time. And that will also, I think, mean that we will change our behaviors for real. And I don't think that we will go back to exactly what it was like before. And that should mean that the demand for transportation should develop into something new. I do think that people will work more from home, maybe not all the time, but more. And that should also give an ease to the current transport system. So maybe not as much of a need for more new investments, but rather again investing in the existing transport system.
It's going to be very interesting. Like the present and the future is so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Kajsa, in Urbanistica podcast, together with my guest, I explore what is the smart city. And I would love to ask you as well. So how do you imagine a smart city, or how do you define a smart city?
Well, I do believe that a smart city takes its start from the people. The city is there for the people, not for anything else. So what I see in front of me is a city that will be and create a platform for a healthy life, really. How can I have a healthy lifestyle and a sustainable and good life in the city? What sort of opportunities does the city give to me on that spectrum? How can I sort of socialize in the city in a good way? How can I use my sort of daily exercise in a healthy way in the city? And also, how do I get inspiration to sort of take the next step in developing my own life? That's what I hope the city will give to me and the people living there.
So if you live in this kind of city, so then for you it's a smart city.
Yes.
And it's back again to what you're passionate about, people.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And how is the smart transportation going to be in this city?
Well, I think it's, if I put a personal point of view on that, it's very interesting because I have the opportunity both to live in a large city, Stockholm, and then I also live in a small city with just 15,000 inhabitants, Leksand. And those cities, of course, they look very different. I like to refer to Leksand as a city as well, because I think it's city or is something that is sort of bringing people together and in working in social environment. And those cities, they will look very different, but I hope I will get the same value in my life in both cities. And that means people, work, the opportunity to get the things I need from that city, but in a large scale and in a smaller scale.
But who is responsible to make this happen?
Well, I mean, utterly it's the politicians, but I mean, they work on our demand. So it is the people, and it is the demands that we set on the city that will also create the opportunities for us to have a smart city.
Yeah. And also you're working in AFRY, and I know that you have so many different expertise on section, not only transportation, but have a landscape, plan, energy. How do you work together, or do you work together?
Yes, we do work together. And I think that is also a very apparent trend to me today, that both that the projects, they get larger and larger, and they get more multidisciplinary, which is also something that I really enjoy. I mean, there are a lot of engineers working at AFRY, right? And I come from a different point of view because I'm trained in communications and so on. And what I see now is that we do many more multidisciplinary projects, and I think that's a real strength that we have, because it's through the multidisciplinary competence that we will also create smart transport solutions and smart cities.
But do you think it's effective that you bring together so many different teams? Doesn't take so much time to agree about one thing?
That's a really good point. And yes, it does take longer time, but it also creates more sufficient solutions because you challenge each other and you see things that not only one competence area can see. So that's why it's so interesting, because the solutions that will come out of such a project, it is much more solid than if you would have created it from just one technical point of view.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And now you remind me, I had a talk with a person in the municipality of Helsingborg and almost asked the same question. So why you bring so many different teams to the same project? It's going to take so a long time. Oh. And he told me that I prefer that it takes, let's say, 2 years, but the result will be good than 1 year and we need to redo it. So then it's not really a smart investment of people's money.
No. That's a really valid point.
So bringing different teams to one project is for the good of the project.
Definitely.
And also you work with communication. Do you find it easy to talk to different disciplines? Do they understand you? Or do you understand them as well?
Maybe that's a better question. I hope they understand me, but really, I mean, it's all about asking a lot of questions, isn't it? To try to understand and making sure that you have an open channel for communication. But I mean, this is the issue, I think, not only for me, but for everyone, really, because the society today is so complex, so you can't be an expert in all areas. You need to bring all the experts to the table and try to find a solution there.
Very interesting. And I would love to talk with you more about you giving advices, communication advices. How do we talk with different disciplines? Maybe give us like 2, let's say 2. In order to create this team atmosphere with different people.
Yeah, I think there it is very important to listen to everyone and get everyone to really share their opinion. And there are some technical fields that might not be as noisy as others. Maybe the field that I come from is a bit noisier.
You mean like they don't really speak loud in the meetings?
Yeah. And to make sure that we also get their opinions up on the table. And the person that drives the meeting needs to make sure. Yeah. Because otherwise you will something will happen like the example you had with Helsingborg, the person you've discussed about there. You can also have a team, a part in your team that is not speaking up or getting the opportunity to speak up, and they might have really good valid points that you need to have on the table in order to develop.
Yeah, so listening and giving the opportunity to other people maximize the benefits.
Yes.
Of the different expertise.
But once again, it takes longer time, of course.
I can imagine. Yeah. Well, great to talk to you. Very inspiring. And now I have like a question, and you need to take a time machine and you will go back in time, and you're allowed to change one thing related to transportation in our cities. What will you change? First of all, to which time you will go back? To what time?
Well, I would have gone back to maybe the 1920s or 30s, and I would have made sure that we did not create our cities for cars. That's what I would have done.
What are the options you will provide?
A lot of pedestrian walks, bicycle paths, and no parking space. The parking space would be places for people to meet or for people to live instead.
Interesting. Well, and if you take the same time machine and you go to the future, like a very far future, what will you add to our cities? All the cities on this planet?
I would say 2 things. One thing would be the apparent thing, places to meet and make sure that the city has that. And the other thing would be more railways.
If we combine them together, like meeting places and railways, do you think we can combine them together, that meeting at a railway for a coffee is a normal thing, even if I don't need to take a train?
Definitely. And I mean, you can see a lot of the railway stations developing in that way as well, like a place to meet rather than an empty place where you're almost afraid to go late at night. So I think we are partly there already.
Okay, that's really awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kajsa. And now I'm more curious to know what is your favorite project or a place within transportation? I know you have many. Try to choose one.
Well, it's so hard, but if I would, it's like saying which one of your children do you love the best, you know?
My mom never answered this question.
Smart one. Smart one. But I think one very interesting project that we have been involved now for a long while is the Eastlink project. And why do I love it? Well, I love it because it's railway and it's a personal interest of mine. Secondly, it involves almost every technical discipline that we have within transportation, which makes it very, very interesting, I believe. Also because the conditions or the preconditions in the project has been changed several times, which I also find very interesting out of a leading point of view. How do you lead a team who firstly are to design a high-speed rail for 320 kilometers per hour? Then, after being halfway in the project doing so, the instruction is new. Now you are to create the high-speed rail for 250 kilometers per hour. And how do you emphasize the team to do that movement? I find very interesting and something that I think that our project management has done in a very good way.
But why is this change happen in this project, if I might ask you?
It's a political decision, basically, and due to financing, where one could see that designing the railway for 320 kilometers per hour is much more expensive, of course, than doing it for 250.
Okay, now I understand. Now the image is clear.
Yeah, but also for all the designers, it's also, I mean, it's technically, it might be much more challenging to designing for 320. So that is also a very, out of a sort of, how do you lead and steer a project? That's a very interesting challenge also to have.
But was it a tough moment when you needed to tell the teams that, okay, we need to step down to 200?
I think the project management did a really, really good job there in preparing and discussing how do we inspire the team to do this change. And for our point of view, it was also interesting because we did our part of the design, we did together with a competitor, or in this part of the project, our colleague. So it was also an interesting,
yeah. Well, so yeah, it's become like a community within the project.
Exactly.
Well, interesting to talk about transportation with you. So thank you so much again for giving your time, Kajsa.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. I have a question, actually. What do you do apart from transportation and leading teams in AFRY? What are your hobbies?
Well, I like to exercise together with my family and spend time with them. And then I love to cook.
Also.
Yeah, I think it's, for me, it's sort of a creative process to cook. And the best challenge is when I don't have any groceries at home. So I basically have to cook out of what we have. That's what I really like.
There's the creativity comes up. So what are you good in cooking? Like absolutely the top?
Well, I'm a vegetarian. I would say that one of my favorite dishes is black pepper tofu.
Okay. Does it take a long time to prepare?
Maybe an hour.
An hour?
A lot of ingredients.
Wow.
A lot of different spices.
Well, very interesting. And yeah, again, I'm so happy to talk with you and hopefully see you again in coming episodes. So thank you, Kajsa.
Thank you so much.
And I would love that you give our listeners 3 takeaway messages so they can think about.
Okay, how would you be a part, and how will you contribute to create the sustainable city and the sustainable transport solutions in the future? Secondly, what takes from the pandemic will you bring into the new normal? And thirdly, how do you contribute during the pandemic in socializing with your colleagues, creating a good working day for them?
Okay, very, very, very interesting takeaway messages and questions. And now it's time for the 3 hashtags. Are you good in hashtagging?
You think that I should introduce a hashtag black pepper tofu, maybe?
Yes.
That could be one. That could be one, of course.
Yeah.
Secondly, it would be really good to create a hashtag, which someone probably already have, the new normal, to sort of get examples and inspiration to the new normal. And thirdly, a very apparent one, smart cities.
Yeah, I love it. This one, I'm really in love with it. So what's going to be the next step for you after leaving this podcast?
Well, today I'm moving into another part of the office today and having lunch with 2 of my colleagues that I have not seen for 3 months.
Wow.
So I'm really looking forward to that. And in the afternoon, I will have a meeting with my BU managers to sort of distribute workload between the different BUs.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Kajsa.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. You learned something new and also got inspired by the guest. Don't forget to share the episode on your social media and recommend it to people you think they are really interested in this topic. Thank you so much again for giving your valuable time to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif. Keep up the good work. Keep loving cities.